Today's AskReddit post. What are the cons of not having kids? Oh boy, this is gonna be a good one. Let's get started. I've noticed that I have a very different sense of time passing. Since I'm not attached to the school calendar, I tend to not notice it passing as much, and then abruptly, it seems to catch up to me. I've noticed this just from quitting teaching. Time moves different for childless adults. If I outlast my wife, I'm probably gonna die in my living room chair and sit there for a few months till someone finds me. Get a couple of animals. They eat your rotting flesh. But what is left of me? I will probably be found at the bottom of the stairs. This is after one of my 6 cats tripped me while going down them, and falling and breaking a hip, and laying in my own piss and poop for days before I finally succumb of dehydration and starvation. But the cats will be fed. If something breaks in your house, you have only yourself to blame. Blame your pets, if you have any. These MF cats broke the blender. According to my dad, if he didn't have kids, no one would talk to him. Which is true, but only because he's just awful to talk to. OMG. I'm sorry about it, but it sounds like Michael Scott from The Office, when he said he wanted to have 100 kids, so he could have 100 friends. It's pretty true for some people. I didn't feel loved by my family, so I created my own. Can't use the kids as an excuse to get out of social engagements you don't want to go to. I solved this problem with these 7 easy words your social anxiety doesn't want you to know about. I don't want to go to that. Close bracket. PFFT. I have a niece that I count as my daughter to my boss. I have lots of photos of her, and I can share when asked. Until one day, your boss meets your sibling, finds out it's their kid, and thinks you are in an incestuous relationship. Who else will grab the remote? Before remotes were invented, kids were the remote. I remember having to sit on my knees to the side of the TV and changing the dial on command until my dad found something he liked. I never considered that TVs and remotes weren't invented at the same time. That's so funny. You run out of people to tell your 4 funny stories and 6 jokes. Objection. Without kids you have 40 funny stories. Because you are actually doing things on the weekends. I only have 1 kid, but we do stuff. She just comes along. Kids are remarkably resilient, capable, and flexible if you let them be. No one to avenge your death or finish your life's work. This is why you should get yourself an apprentice. Technically not your kid, but if you become close enough with them, they will utter the line, "He was the closest thing I had to a father and you took him away from me," as they plunge their sword into the heart of your enemy. You know, close enough, and you end up having to battle them to the death at least half the time. Mixed bag, is what I'm saying. In general you lose all your friends who have kids. Parents socialize when the kids play etc. and you aren't invited, so you miss out. Eventually you stop getting invited to most things because you're just not around enough to be planned in. Feeling super thankful for my friends with kids who still include me and want me around. Yeah, I didn't have this experience at all. All of my friends with kids kept me involved in their and their kids' lives. My dad jokes are wasted. They're just jokes now SMH. You don't get to experience the joy of a second childhood. I'm childless by choice, but I love seeing my niece's excitement over holidays and vacations. My brother loves playing Santa for the kid and seeing the joy of Christmas morning. My grandpa always joked that hanging out with me was like having a 3rd childhood because we'd always do fun things like visit dinosaur museums or make snowmen together. Yes. You really get to enjoy the best parts of childhood again, while being wise enough to know to savor them. I really don't know of a way to get that exact experience without being a parent. You keep having to either dodge the question, or explain why you don't have, or want kids, when it's nobody's ducking business. I have fertility issues, but also don't want children. I use BC just to be safe, but the chances are already extremely low. So when someone gets nosy as to why my husband and I don't have children after 5 years of marriage, I'm open about having fertility issues. It usually makes people feel incredibly awkward, but I'm not triggered by it because I also don't want kids. I just want people to feel bad about being nosy. I'm a bitch, so I'd start sobbing just to make them look bad to anyone else witnessing it. People assume you have no plans or responsibilities. I sometimes feel hurt that I'm treated like less of an adult because of my choice not to get married and have kids. I chose to take on fewer responsibilities in a way that doesn't harm anyone. I don't see how that makes me less of an adult. Pro tip: show up less. It's the only way I found to gain their respect. No one to help you out in your old age. I'm dealing with the reality of this right now. My dad is in a rehab facility for a broken hip, and anything he needs or wants I get for him. I'm pretty much the only person who visits him. Realistically, I'm the only person he's got. I've got no kids. Nobody I can really lean on. And I've come to the very sobering realization that if/when something like that happens to me in old age, I'm fucked. My 83-year-old mom was just diagnosed with cancer. I'm not sure who is going to take care of me the way I take care of her. It is a big concern. Best wishes to you and your dad. So I'm not pro procreation at all. I don't have children and don't want them, but there are definitely downsides to it. Though to be fair, there are also downsides to having children too. Mainly, that having kids can be extremely fulfilling and a rewarding experience. Seeing a human being that is part you, part someone you love deeply, at least in theory, grow and develop. It can be profoundly rewarding to see them learn new things, engage in the world, and blossom into a full-fledged adult. It's also fun to show them your favorite things and see how they react, like movies and video games. Of course, this can be accomplished without having biological children. I just want to share my thoughts as a counter to all the cynicism you see on here regarding families and children. You have to pick up the dog poop yourself. No joke. That was my main chore as a kid. No poop. In most countries, adult children will take care of the elderly parent. It's a huge factor in countries without safety nets. Hard to explain this dead bod. Lol. Can't claim dependents on taxes. A. They cost more to feed/clothe/house/educate than any tax break you get. This is true of almost every tax break. It cushions the expense, doesn't completely negate it. People trying to convince you to have kids. Felt this. It gets so damn annoying. Have you ever noticed it's the people whose kids hate them that want to pressure you the most? I just wanna say, and how has that been working out for you? Nobody to inherit all the useless junk you've been saving in your garage. I'm very lonely. It's a different kind of love. Having someone you'd die for without a second thought seems bad from the outside because it's so other focused, but it's a fierce love that you can't experience any other way, and most people don't actually have to jump in front of a bus, so the risk is low. So you miss that. It's amazing. I'm sure there are amazing things I've missed by having kids and have no reference for, but since you asked about the con, missing that is a big one. I was 35 when I had my son, so I'd had a lot of time to experience life. I've been in and out of relationships, partied my ass off, and traveled all over the place. There is *NOTHING asterisk I've ever experienced that is like the love I have for this little punk. Honestly, the poop we get from our families, we are still referred to as the kids, even though we are in our 40s and been married 18 years. We do what we want on the weekends and spend money on our hobbies and pursuits. That has morphed into this weird implied arrest development our families put on us. Like, even though we have a high credit score, new cars, full-time jobs, roof over our head, we somehow don't know what being an adult is. I'm kinda surprised to not see this answer yet. Most of my child-free friends complain about how other people tend to assume their life is less than Work volunteers you to work late cause no one is at home needing you. Others expect you to be free for errands or inconvenient things. People don't understand why you can't just drop everything cause nothing in a child-free personal life could possibly be as important as children. I genuinely enjoy my young adult children. They are two of my favorite people. I'm a young adult who loves my parents so much and this made me smile. I'm child-free, but I definitely see why some people love having kids. Now that I'm an adult with independence, I hang out with my parents so much because I want to, and they are genuinely fun to be around. There's no one to feed the pets when mom and dad go to the swinger resort for a weekend. You have a fatter, more uncomfortable wallet to carry around. My wife calls my wallet the Costanza. People constantly ask why you don't have them. You don't get those nice tax bonuses for having them. You are expected to schedule your life around other people's children, coworkers taking off for spring break, etc. People assume you hate children. People assume you have no need for raises, vacations, etc. because you don't have children to provide for. You and your partner/roommates will never be considered a family because you don't have children. And most importantly, you can't go to the playground and use the swings. People assume you're creepy. Overly spoiled pets. Is there really such a thing, though? Like, what's wrong with making another living being as happy as they can? I don't have any pets right now, but when I get a new kitty, it will be the happiest kitty on the planet. If you like kids and want to volunteer with them, I've found not having one already gets more than a few raises eyebrows and well, why are you interested? Shit, I'm not a kid snatcher. I just really enjoy it when I can give the kids back afterwards. Yep, I was a teacher for 20 years and loved it, but it was the world's best birth control. Honestly, we should all be thanking teachers for their service. You get to take your own car keys away and check yourself into a nursing home, so you can't complain about it to the other residents. I was very much against the idea of having kids. Then I had kids and it unlocked a part of my brain I had no idea existed. I wouldn't have regretted having kids because I wouldn't have known what I was giving up. I probably would have been fine. Now that I know what I unlocked, I'm so grateful I didn't live without this. The con is that you don't know what you are missing. Could be bad, could be good, like any life-altering decision. Maybe your hypothetical kids are great people and maybe they become the Unabomber. That's a scary thought and I get it. I was the same as you. Now I have my son and I love him and love caring for him more than I ever thought was possible. Even all through pregnancy I didn't expect it to be like this. General social life. As your friends have kids, you will have less and less in common as the trajectory of your lives drifts further apart. I have 2 little kids and this has backfired for me because it only works if your friends' kids are really close in age. If I wasn't a parent, I wouldn't have this bond that's more amazing than any other I've experienced. My daughter is like a piece of my heart, out there walking around in the world. The thing is that not everyone gets this kind of relationship. I have friends with similar age kids, and it's not this same kind of love fest. Another pro is that I'm very motivated to do things as a mom that I wouldn't bother for myself, especially in terms of healthy food and living, but also professionally. So I guess the con would be not knowing what you might be capable of if you had a kid. Maybe a lot more than you thought. Glad someone said this. I didn't know how much you could love another person. As a parent, very few negatives. It is the positives that non-parents are missing. Honestly, if you are not driven to have children, then don't. Absolutely nothing wrong with that decision and little to no negatives come from it. This is a way better path than having children versus deciding to have and raise children. This is a key difference in my mind. My partner and I decide we will have and raise children to adulthood, not just have children. If you are not actively looking forward to raising them and ensuring they become productive adults, then just don't. Society will be better off with that decision. It's hard to say because child-free people are so defensive about this poop. You can see it from the answers here, which I get, because I was child free my entire life. It wasn't until recently that I realize I ducked up. There are some obvious cons despite the resistance to accept them. Loneliness as you age is probably the biggest. I think a lot of child-free people are kidding themselves that they'll have a full social life at 70, 80, 90 or that nieces/nephews will give a damn about them. Being alone on the holidays might be an issue. Another is help with things as your body and mind deteriorates. I work in a clinic. Patients that can't drive will often have their adult children bring them in. Childless elders will probably need to rely more on social services and may need to live in a nursing home sooner. Some of these services may not exist or be unaffordable by that time. I'm not saying these are reasons to have kids. They are not. No one should have kids because they are scared of being alone. But they are realities. People with kids asking why you don't. My favorite response is I didn't want to ever have to put away the knives and drugs and toxic plants. For me the worst part is people insisting they know better than me what I want in life. Dealing with my mum's difficulties to accept that I will only ever give her grandkids. Who else will hold the light when working on your car? You will never have that aha moment when you dole out an unpopular decision to your child for their own safety and then you suddenly remember when your parents gave you the same decision and you hated them for it because you thought it was so unfair, and now you can become your parents' friend and not their child. As a child-free person with ADHD, I'm not forced to have any kind of structure or routine outside of my job. On the other hand, having to be responsible for the structure and routine of a tiny, entirely dependent human sounds exhausting and impossible to me. Wondering what your life would be like if you had kids. How is that a cons? If I picture my life with kids, it just reinforced my decision to not have any. Having a child made me a much better person. I might have got there without having a kid, but it might have taken a lot longer. Nothing makes you get over yourself faster than having a small being come into your home that needs you 24/7. Unless you want to royally duck it up, you have to dig deep into your resources to get the job done well. There are no do-overs, no duvet days, and every mistake you make will come back to haunt you. Doing a good job of it is truly an amazing feeling, and the payback is immense. I certainly learned consistency. If you slip up with a kid even once, it is a mission to get them back into a routine. Like say they are sleeping in their own room and you let them have one night in the big bed with mum and dad. It'll be a fight for the next week or two to fix that error. It applies to pretty much everything. Stopping alcohol, sugar, eating healthy, exercise, performing at work, etc. Just stay consistent, even if it is really hard some days, and it'll work out fine. You would miss out on all the moments kids give you. The other day my daughter looked me dead in the eye when I was about to go to work and said, "Daddy, don't get fat today." Like, yeah, I want my freedom and money and all that, but I'm aging either way and it'll be nice to have something to care about as I get old. I don't want to be 25 with kids, but I don't want to be 75 without them. My daughter, 4, this morning over Fruity Pebbles. "Mom, stop making me happy, you're so annoying." Kids are savage, and I love it. Dying alone. Not being able to care for yourself. Sometimes I forget the school schedule, and so when school starts up in September or August, or whatever, I don't account for additional traffic around schools and sometimes run late. If I would have had kids, I wouldn't have that problem, since I would have killed myself long ago. That plot twist. Even if you have a lifetime of experience with children, many parents will never take you seriously or believe you know what you're doing. Bro, you actually watched the whole video. I'd give you a high five if I was a human. Make sure to click the like button and subscribe for more great content. See you next time.